All right, good evening again, everyone. My name is Sophia King. Honored to be the alderman of the 4th Ward, where Kenwood High School sits. This evening, we will be just talking about resources that are coming to Kenwood High School that we're all excited about. Resources that have been allocated from the TIF, the 53rd Street TIF. And we're really excited this evening just to share with you some of the where the resources will be put. I will allow their esteemed principal to give a little more detail where that's concerned. And we also have with us representatives from CPS, representatives from local school council.
Thank you.
I will allow everybody to introduce themselves. I will turn it over to Mr. Chambers from Chicago Public Schools to introduce his team. And then I know I've seen a couple folks from the LSC, but I think Mr. Chambers, if you can turn it over to the principal and Principal Calloway can introduce some of the LSC members and your team as well. But without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Chambers to introduce his team from CPS.
Thank you, Alderman King. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamel Chambers. I'm Project Coordinator for the Department of Intergovernmental Affairs at CPS. I'm so happy to be here with you all tonight. Definitely want to thank Alderman King for her office and their commitment into allocating the funds, their TIF funds for these two projects at Kenwood Community. Also, special thanks to Principal Calloway for her vision for these two projects. I have here our wonderful capital team here at CPS. So I will pass over to Evan and allow him to introduce himself and the rest of the team.
Good evening. Thanks, Jamal. Yes, my name is Evan Smith. I'm an architect. I'm Director of Planning and Design for CPS Capital. Keisha
Johnson, also with the Capital Program at CPS, Lead Planner.
Yeah, I'm not positive if Vinny or Mark from our capital team are on, but if you are, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Vinny Dye, Director of Operations for the Capital Planning and Construction team. And Mark is not on, unfortunately. He couldn't get on.
He is, Mark is our Director of Renovation for the CPS Capital team. And that's it.
Oh, I guess I can go now, Alderman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Calloway. I'm the principal at Kenwood Academy High School. I appreciate the opportunity to get a chance to really share as much information as we can about this very exciting project that we have been really fortunate enough to be in this position to experience during this lifetime, to be honest with you. Kenwood is an older building. This building itself, the high school, was built in 1966. They began that process. And actually the Cantor building that we will be connecting to with the Pedway is even older than that. I need to find out when that actual building was built, but I know it was built, it actually housed the first graduating class at Kenwood, which the high school building was completed in 1969. So the history is very interesting, in my opinion. And as a school community, we're extremely excited about this project. I want to kind of introduce some of the people on the panel with us today. My local school council members are on the panel, as well as my administrator, who's really over facilities, Mr. Morrison, my assistant principal, and also our building engineer, who happens to be a graduate of Kenwood Academy. So he's our lead engineer here at Kenwood. So we're excited about working with him. And he's on as well. We're having a few technical difficulties right now. So that's what you're kind of walking back and forth, and that's what you're seeing. But I think we're all on now. But I want to turn it over to my local school council members so that they can introduce themselves, and then we can move on with the rest of the program. So I see Ms. Rojas and Kiana Barrett and Ms. Flowers and Ms. Burris. You guys, can you introduce yourselves, please?
Yes, hello, everyone. Good evening.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm Deborah Rojas. I'm a special education teacher at Kenwood Academy and also teacher representative for our local school council at Kenwood.
My name is Kristen Flowers, and I am the support ESP member and representative for the LSC, and I'm also the Dean of Students at Kenwood Academy.
And Ramona Barres, Kenwood alum, current parent, as well as current LSC chair.
I'm Mr. Morrison.
Good evening, Kiana Barrett, LSC member.
Is that all the LSC members on the call? I don't want to miss anyone.
Go ahead, Mr. Morrison.
Okay, yeah, I'm Mr. Morrison, assistant principal. I work with facilities.
Good afternoon, everyone. Daniel Reed, Chief Engineer at Kenwood High School.
I believe that's everyone. Did we miss anyone? Okay, great.
Principal Callaway, I did miss two people, and I apologize for that. Two very important people on CPS's side. One is our design manager, Isaac Pursley, who I think you've met before.
Yes.
He is part of our PMO capital planning team, and as important as everyone here too is Anthony Akindele, who is the principal of NIA Architects, African American owned architectural firm, known Anthony for many, many, many years. So they are the architects, and they are on the call today also. He is on the call.
Thank you, Evan. And if I may also add, that's one of our project architects that's also on the call. Her name is Jackie Davis. She's also on.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so a little bit about the project and how we got to where we are. For those of you who may know me, I've been at Kenwood for over 20 years now. So I'm a part of the institution here. And so I've seen the school prosper and grow. And, I've experienced a lot of maybe some of the ups and downs that have happened as the city changes, neighborhood schools change. And I've been here and experienced all of that. I've been an administrator for, this is 30 years as a principal, 7 years as an assistant principal. So almost 10 years now, we've been trying to figure out ways to enhance the physical plant of the school. So a lot of our focus, mine as well as the previous principal, Dr. Jones, we've had an eye on the facilities. And as we're trying to remain competitive with other schools throughout the city as well as the state, we want to make sure that students are in an infrastructure that they can be, one, proud of, and one that is safe. So we've looked at different parts of the building to see what areas need work aesthetically, as well as it relates to facility plant repairs and maintenance. And so this is something that we've done every year. I've known for a very long time that there might be some opportunity for Kenwood to receive some funding for some of these projects that we like to see happen at the school level. As always, we know that the first thing in any school is safety. If you look at the hierarchy of needs for people in general, the first thing you want to be able to provide is safety. We were able to take on the Cantor building maybe 7 or 8 years ago when they closed the Cantor Middle School. We at that point were provided an opportunity to take over the Cantor building. Our school definitely needs it because we really were busting at the seams. Back then we were around 1,800 students in one school building, in the high school building. And then as time progressed, since I've been principal, we've gone from 1,800 students to, we're projected next year to be over 2,200 students, which makes us almost the 4th or 5th largest high school in Chicago. So we definitely needed the space. in saying that, we noticed that as we were using both buildings because we have specialty classes in the Cantor building, as well as it houses our academic center. Kenwood has the first and the oldest academic center, meaning 7th and 8th grade students to attend a high school in the city. So our 7th and 8th grade students really are housed in the Cantor building next door. What we noticed was during the passing periods, how challenging it was for students to go between both buildings. When it's raining, when it's cold, and as well as we notice sometimes in Hyde Park, you know, I live in Hyde Park, so I understand the culture of Hyde Park, but I also understand the city and some of the things that have been going on in the city in the last several years. It always became a safety issue for us about our students having to go from one building to another, especially the 7th and 8th grade students who are, you know, if you've met them, they're little cute, adorable kids going between buildings with little bitty book bags with wheels on them, most of them. And, you know, so it really kind of became a safety issue. As much as we have an adult presence during the passing periods, it just would always be helpful, and it would really enhance and seal the culture if we were able to connect both buildings. So we've discussed it with our capital team, we discussed it with our CEO, we discussed it with our aldermen, we just discussed it with our local school council as well as families in attendance and other stakeholders, and thought, you know, this would be a great opportunity for us to be able to connect both buildings. And so that's where we are now with the Pedway, or what some might call a link. Many of your high schools in Chicago were built that way standardly. If you look at some of the high schools on near West Side who have academic center students, as well as some of the other buildings that have 7th, 8th grade students and high school students, you'll see that they have connecting buildings. So we thought if it was an opportunity for us to have this experience, we would definitely push for it. In addition to that, some of the funding we asked to support our gymnasium. It is on the 2nd floor, no windows, no doors. In the summer and the spring, it gets extremely hot, sweltering heat. I remember in a volleyball game, the floors were wet from the heat. It was so hot outside, it was almost impossible to play a game. Many of the students, some of them had respiratory problems, a lot of kids having asthma and things like that. We thought it would be a good idea to actually try to figure out a way to put air conditioning or new HVAC system in the gymnasium. So that was also a request that was asked of us. And so that's where we are. That's a little bit about the project. In addition to that, I think since the school was built, we've not had any of the concrete surrounding the building. If you walk around Kenwood's building, you will see a lot of trees. The roots are popping out of the sidewalks, things like that. And we're hoping to get a lot of that work repaired during the process of while we're doing the link. I think that's pretty much the long and the short of it. Am I missing something, Eben?
Oops, sorry. No, I think you gave a great high level overhaul and summary. So no, I mean,
I think you didn't brag on Kenwood enough.
That's what I was gonna say.
I got right to it. Okay. Alderman King, I could talk about Kenwood all day. So there's only one other thing I could talk about better, and that's myself. So I can talk about Kenwood all day long. We are a 1+ neighborhood high school. We have over 200.
What plus?
1+. We're the only 1+ neighborhood high school on the south side of Chicago, and we're one of 2 1+ neighborhood high schools in the city of Chicago. We are probably the highest performing majority African-American high school in the Midwest, would be my guess. There are some schools that are high performing in the city of Chicago, but they do not have 87% African-American population. So we're excited and very proud about that. Yearly, we bring in, on average, before pandemic, 50 million plus in scholarship dollars. Currently during the pandemic, we're hanging around 37 million right now in scholarship dollars. However, the school year is not over, so we're hoping to increase that. We also have 70 of our seniors that graduated last year, out of last year's class, graduated with 15 credit hours or more. We have the highest amount of students who are taking dual enrollment courses in the city. Next to us will be Good, Good STEM Academy, and they're designed to have that type of programming. So we're excited to be in a good place as it relates to getting our students out of high school with college credit that they've already earned. And actually, we're beginning to see our college graduates come back. We had a student come back yesterday from Spelman. She graduated within 3.5 years, and that's because she got the dual credits under her belt while she was in high school. So this is the exciting work. Those students who are especially coming out of the academic center who choose to stay at Kenwood are really, really doing well as those students who live in the neighborhood who choose to stay at Kenwood are really, really faring well as well. So we're probably the fastest growing high school in the city. I don't know what other school is growing faster than Kenwood. I hope that we stop growing this year. But we, like I said, when I took the job as a principal, we were around 1,800 students, and we're currently projecting next year to be over 2,200. We just got our high school admissions information about what students are selecting Kenwood. In a pandemic, we are up 100 applications. I don't know how, but we are. We're up 100 plus applications. We're the only school that I know of that has a national college calendar, meaning that we take kids from Kenwood monthly to different colleges throughout the country. We are planning our college tours as we speak. I was just speaking to one of my LSC members, students, her kids yesterday, Ms. Burris. I saw her students the day before yesterday. And I was telling them that I got to get the momentum under students right now to get excited about college tours for the fall. Once we get past this pandemic piece, which I'm thinking and hoping and praying that life is going to go back to normal for schools in the fall. Our first college tour would be probably to Atlanta during spring break. Our college coach is working with Florida State and Florida A&M as a college tour. In addition to that, we're doing the St. Croix University of Virgin Islands, which is a historically Black college. So we just want to get kids excited and get them back into the grind of doing college tours. If you want students to go to college, you got to take them to the goal. If you take them to the goal, they will go. So that is our motto. We do have a one-word mission, which is college. And we're also building a new STEM program. I had a student that came back to me maybe 6 years ago because he's graduated from Morehouse since then. He told me, Ms. Calloway, there's one thing I want to say that I think Kenwood needs to do. We need to do a better job of teaching students how to code. We know that our world and our global marketplace is inclusive of those who are strong in the STEM program, whether it's science, technology, engineering, or math. And so we're trying to amp up in that area. We're currently building a STEM lab. It's going to be a state-of-the-art STEM lab. We've been working with CPS and an architect firm that is helping us design this lab. We also are partnering with Project Lead the Way to assist us in building the curriculum for students in engineering, or we have a course called Essentials of Engineering, which just really talks about all the different facets of engineering and STEM and really getting students excited about that. We also just launched a partnership with the Illinois Institute of Technology to send our students over there to take more dual enrollment engineering courses. They have a new program called DevUp, which we are inviting our rising sophomores to be a part of, which is going to teach them about just the different areas in engineering, as well as connecting it to social justice. So we have a lot of great things going on here in this school on 50th and Blackstone. If you're ever in the area, please come check us out. We do tours all the time. We just hired a new orchestra teacher who is really trained, and he's a trained violinist. And so he's teaching students to play strings and enhancing the orchestra program that we've had. He also will be teaching students how to play the guitar, which the principal might end up in there. I think that's kind of cool and fun. He's teaching them how to do that. We have an outstanding jazz band, concert band, marching band, our arts, visual arts and arts program just landed over 2 million in scholarships for our students during a pandemic. So it's a lot of good stuff. I can go on and on and on about Kenwood. I don't want to.
I appreciate you giving it a little more color, because I couldn't do it justice, but
yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to do my favorite thing to do and talk about my high school, but I'm always open to do that.
Of course. And, you know, we are just ecstatic about the leadership that you provide the school. Obviously, there have been some great leaders at Kenwood, but you are right up there at the top, and just want to share that with everybody. But I wanted them to hear from you directly, you know, what is really going on at Kenwood. And as I always say, you know, one of the reasons that, you know, I've really been advocating on behalf of Kenwood and all my other schools is because, you know, I want people to know what's going on in your school. And I also want the physical part of your school to look like what's going on in the inside of your school. You are a 1+ school, you're a national school. Your school should, you know, you should see that from the doorsteps. And that's what I'm, you know, hoping to provide and help provide. Just a little context, and then I'll throw it over back to Mr. Chambers. We want to do a brief presentation, but a few weeks ago, Alderman Hairston and I announced, you know, resources coming to kind of 53rd Street in the Hyde Park area along the line of TIFs, you know, TIF resources being allocated to the area. And, you know, there were just a lot of questions about TIFs and how they're used and what they are and what the history is of those TIFs. Well, when Harold Washington started TIFs a while ago, you know, his goal was really to use them to spur economic development. What better way to spur economic development in a community than to invest in your school or your schools, your local schools, especially your neighborhood schools? There, to me, is no better way to do that. You know, your schools tend to be the hubs, it should be the hubs of your communities, right? Where you come, where your kids go, where parents are bringing their kids to the community so that they can go to those school. You know, then if parents and kids come to a community, that spurs businesses. It just really is, to me, the hub of true economic development in any community. And so while we announced about a $20 million infusion of TIF dollars, half of that is really going to Kenwood for these projects that we're talking about that Mr. Chambers and his team will give you a little more color on in a minute. You know, but just in context, we talked about also providing TIF in the form of SPIF, or small business investments, to small businesses. We know that they are really struggling, especially after the pandemic. And so there is money that will be allocated for that. As I like to say, you know, we're trying to really connect, you know, 53rd from the lake all the way to what I call the west side of 53rd, to make sure that, you know, the business district, the community, the park, you know, stays connected, and that everything is vibrant. So we're going to allocate dollars also to the west side of 53rd Street, you know, down on the Woodlawn, close to Woodlawn and that area around Kimball Plaza, and even further west, as well as to Nichols Park. And so, you know, we really just want the community to thrive, and we want to use the money from the tax increment. A number of people don't necessarily understand what TIFs are. I'll give you just kind of an abbreviated layman's explanation of what TIFs are. They're boundaries that are drawn, and within those boundaries, the TIF, or excuse me, the taxes are frozen within a certain year. And so after that year, every tax dollar that is made over the benchmark that's established in that year is called an increment. And that increment is used to go in the tax or in the TIF district. So the dollars that we're using for the economic development, especially around Kenwood and the other areas that I named, are coming from that increment that has grown over years. And so they're tax dollars that are local dollars that are spent. So it's really kind of an investment back into the community. There is, some controversy, I wouldn't say some, but a lot of controversy over TIFs and how they're used and where they're used, especially because tax dollars, that tax base, directly impacts schools because those frozen tax dollars are then not flowing into the regular tax base, which is to the schools, to the city. But schools take up almost 50% of the tax revenue. And so, so when they're frozen, that revenue is not going to the school. On the other hand, if a tax, a TIF district is really done as Harold Washington provided, the economic influx of resources should increase the tax dollars so that there is at least a net gain in terms of overall tax dollars. But again, there's controversy around that because the taxing bodies or the areas were meant to be in blighted areas. Now you look at Hyde Park and you would not say, relatively speaking, that it is blighted. When the TIF was actually implemented, it's gained. I still wouldn't have said it's blighted, but it's in place. And so, we wanted to use it to the best of our ability. And we felt education was exactly one of the priorities that we should be using it on. And so to that end, that brings us here today. And I know Mr. Chambers and his team have a presentation on just how those dollars will be spent.
Yes, thank you, Alderman. Evan, I'm not sure who's going to share their screen presentation.
Yeah, we can jump right into it. Keisha is going to do that. And I'll just add as she's loading, Keisha is also Kenwood alumni. Right, Keisha?
I unfortunately really hate to have to correct you on this. And
your husband?
Yes, my
husband
sorry, is
okay.
alumni.
Right.
I went to
close enough.
Nope, can't say those words.
Right, see, right.
I have to claim.
I didn't even hear her. I think it got muted.
And by the way, go ahead. Okay, great. So before we go over this presentation for the link, as we call it, I do, as the Alderman and Principal so graciously summarized for all of us, there are two projects that were recently funded through TIF funds. One, of course, is this link that has, we have images. The other is the gymnasium ventilation mechanical project. Unfortunately, right now, because these are both starting off for the mechanical, plus, of course, mechanical ductwork and ventilation and things don't have any pretty pictures. We don't have anything to show you for that, but we'll talk about the schedules of both of these as we move through them. But we're going to focus today graphically on what was developed, high level draft concept level imagery that we developed in order to present to the TIF committee to get this approval. So with that, I'll just kind of jump into it. Keisha, you want to go to the next slide? And again, if there's Keisha, if there's anything I get wrong, please correct me. So this first image, we all know where the campus is, right? It's Blackstone and Hyde Park, Lake Park, and the 49th Street, 49th Street bend to the sort of to the north. And where Keisha's cursor is the Cantor building. And then of course to the south is the multi-winged Kenwood campus and corresponding parking and site work or site amenities along South Shore. Along Lake Park. These images, of course, again, a lot of us here are probably familiar, are trying to just show the Cantor building and the high school building that are adjacent to one another, but separated by the southern, well, you could say northern main building or southern Cantor building. And so that's the area where the proposed link is being proposed to connect those two locations. This image is, thank you, Keisha, is a site plan that starts to show how the link, how it could be connected. You know, and I do preface everything we say today. If you noticed on the cover, it said draft. You know, there's a process that we have to go through and will go through with our architects, Nia, to determine the final sort of, you know, how this is going to play out. This link will require modifications to the existing parking lot in between both campuses. And there may be some, and then to supplement that parking that's lost, we plan to make modifications to the parking lot to the north of the Cantor building. We also have to take into consideration loading for the boiler building, garbage pickup, et cetera. And when we, at the end of the day, when we have much less parking between the two buildings, there'll be some landscaping buffer. Again, these images are high level concept in the green where Keisha's cursor is, just to the west of the recently constructed field. And another component of this project to the south off of Hyde Park Boulevard, we were asked a while back, I think when we met with the school a long time ago, and I think Alderman, to consider sort of a more structured wheelchair accessible vehicular drop-off path area and or progression from Hyde Park out to Lake Park. So that, you know, that again, it's you can see those red arrows that Keisha was pointing to. So then from here, this again is somewhat some imagery concept, images that we prepared to kind of show what maybe some of the site improvements that are related to the link could be. They're not finalized. We'll be meeting with the school and our architects to kind of develop this whole concept. And you can kind of see a little bigger here of how the focus, area in and around the Cantor and the wing. I think it's D wing. Is it D wing or A B C D C wing of the high school? You should go to the next. So yeah, if you scroll up, again, this concept thought or imagery is implying that the first floor of the connection would be kind of an open air through connection, and the second floor would be an enclosed connection. Again, we haven't finalized the exact locations of those connections, but you notice on the right-hand side here, when we conceptualized this, we thought that the eastern wing of the Cantor building makes the most sense. But we haven't defined exactly where we would then go into the existing high school building. You know, we have to consider accessibility. And I believe both buildings have elevators, and what's the least path of resistance to, you know, get us from point A to point B without incurring additional kind of costs. So that's, again, is part of the design process. You can go to the next one, Keisha. Again, this is an image from the original parking lot off of Blackstone looking east. And again, just some high level imagery of what this link could be. And as we, it appears, when we prepared this, one could say this is probably steel and glass. That's probably what the materials will end up being, but we're, again, not sure at this point. We'll be evaluating that across the process. High level schedule. We have, like I said earlier, we've engaged our architect of record, Nia, and we are starting the design process, and we'll be kicking everything off with them in the school now, essentially. And then we foresee that design process taking approximately 6 months with a procurement or bidding process of approximately 3 months and a construction duration of approximately 12 months with a target completion date of 2023. The one thing to note, as you see down here in the schedule considerations, one, of course, if we can push things up, we will. We always strive for that. Currently, the school is in a residential zone, and we have to go through some iterations with Department of Planning and Zoning to determine. I don't believe it's a planned development. That's the campus right now, which hopefully we're hoping we'll be able to do what's called a PD, plan development waiver, in lieu of having to transform this whole site into a new plan development, I believe. So there'll be those discussions will start immediately with Department of Planning, and so that we can find out right at the beginning any of those, if those requirements come up. We have to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals and other things, but we will be working through that. That's the I think high level, very fast presentation. I'm not sure, Principal Callaway and Alderman King, if you want me to address anything else. And there will be engagement, of course, as we always do, with our architects, our design management team, and the school as we go through this process.
I think you covered everything. I know I saw a question in the chat, Alderman King.
Yeah, if you can take down the presentation, although I think the question may be.
Yeah, I just saw it too.
But Miss Thiel, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's referring to the area in that garden area that's over there. I know that.
Yeah.
We losing a lot of that.
Right. That is the space north of Cantor become a parking lot. That I think is the neighbor spaces, but really we own it. I believe CPS.
That is CP. That is our space.
Right.
We will be losing some of that for the parking lot.
Yes.
It's because we're losing spaces where we're making it, and we still have to house student spaces and teachers. But we also met with, at least I met with our neighbors there, which, and I haven't had a chance to talk to the architects and yourself, Evan, and Vinny, and you guys, Keisha. But when we do meet again, I am going to bring up the conversation that I had with the neighbors on Blackstone about, creating some more greenery and making sure they specifically requested evergreen trees, which, since we're very early in the process, I told them that I would speak with the design team to make sure that we can, hopefully accommodate that. They want to make sure that the space is attractive and appealing to the curbside, which I appreciate. And I appreciate working with the Blackstone Block Club Association. I meet with them pretty regularly, and a few of them email me pretty regularly. And these are things that they didn't train you for in undergrad and grad school, that you would you thought you were just working with teachers and students. No. You're working with the community as well, which is fine because we work pretty well together. So
yeah.
It's important to me as their homeowners that we support. we support and respect some of their
Your
wishes.
camera thingy? Okay.
My picture.
I'll add that, you know, as a matter of statute and design and codes, we have to conform to the Chicago Landscape Ordinance, which requires certain green and sustainable components as part of any parking lot and streetscape, because this is a residential community too. The area to the north, off of memory, I don't have my plat of survey in front of me, where our property starts and stops to the north. I think there's still, even after we
Put up a site plan while you're talking. Then.
You want to do the, oh, Keisha,
Yeah.
you want to pull that back up? Mhm.
Yeah, just so people can get, and then after you finish that, I do want to take questions, but I also want to take a moment and talk about the Hyde Park Advisory Council and how that can fit in, and then the question.
So yeah, whoops, go back to the color one, Keisha, if you wouldn't mind. Oops, there you go. So, right, you can see that, right, it appears that the property, again, this, you know, we will have updated surveys done. That space to the north, potentially the property lines jog, but again, I'm just not positive. We will be impacting that space. There are even transformers over there. I also believe, Principal Callaway, I know, well, not I believe, I heard Sean and some other conversations, a batting cage installation that we need to coordinate into this too. So we'll do that. But at the end of the day, I am pretty positive there'll still be even additional green space left beyond our property line. So we'll work through that, and you can sort of, if you see to the right below the dotted line of area of work, where you see kind of an island of green off of Blackstone, as you were to drive into that into that parking lot. So there, again, these are just quick trees and green thrown on things, but we will develop a formal approach of how to deal with this parking lot, so that the necessary buffers are in place, not just to conform to the code, but also to ensure that the community interests is taken into consideration.
Mr. Smith.
Absolutely. I met with Ms. Reynolds and her next door neighbor, who I can't remember his name. I feel like his name was Ed. Mr. Morrison, do you remember his name, the gentleman we met with? And also we hear from Kim Harding, who lives, they are the neighbors that are right next to the garden. So Ms. Theo, we are in communication with our neighbors. Like we want to hear your voice, and that's important. So we're not just trying to make decisions that are not inclusive of everyone, to make sure that this project is something that everybody can be excited about.
Yeah.
There's one part of the project that I don't think was expressed, the additional green space that was added. It's currently all parking, and it would flip to greenery. That's actually a very large space behind the bleachers.
Yeah.
So,
and if you can, again, bring that up.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, I just want to take a moment, and then we'll take everybody's questions and try and get out, in a fashion. But I just wanted to take a moment to, especially since Principal Callaway was talking about the community and involvement and engagement, to talk about the Hyde Park Advisory Council and, all the councils, in the Fourth Ward. We started a strategic plan a while ago. I won't mention someone on the Zoom who was very instrumental in that process. But what came out of that was that, what the community wanted us to focus on as priorities. One of those was communication, and how we communicate with the community and how they communicate with us. Other priorities were around safety, education, economic development, and the such. But out of the communication piece, we were trying to figure out over these years how we could communicate better with with our residents and empower them really to make decisions. And so we came up with these advisory councils that are really around where people live, their communities. One of them is the Hyde Park Advisory Council. There's a Kenwood Advisory Council. There's a North Kenwood Oakland Advisory Council. There's a Grand Boulevard Advisory Council. There's a Douglas Advisory Council and a South Loop Advisory Council. But focusing on the Hyde Park Advisory Council, the chair of that council is here. I saw him, Mr. Benny Curry. I've also, I think, see a number of subcommittee chairs who are on here. I just wanted you guys to know who Mr. Curry is and to encourage people on the call to join the advisory council. There are subcommittees that are really around what we our priorities in our community. Education is one of those. Arts and parks, development, economic development. I know I'm missing some safety, block clubs, and so just really encourage you to join. I'll be looking to the Hyde Park Advisory Council for input on things like TIF, on things like infrastructure improvements, on things that are dear to community members, quality of life things. So please do join so that you can have your input on things like this and other things. But Mr. Curry, I know there are a couple members. I really would love for you to just briefly introduce them, and then let's get back to the questions of about this particular project.
Sure, Sophia. Yeah, I'm the chair of the Hyde Park Advisory Council, 4th Ward, and I know Joy Clendenning is on. I believe she's there. She is the education chair, and we have a few other members of that committee. I'm not sure if they're here, but we definitely wanted to attend this meeting to hear about the improvements at Kenwood, but to also encourage residents that are interested in serving on the committees. And like the Alderman mentioned, public safety is one. That's the only committee right now that doesn't have a chair. So I really would love to see someone step up to the plate on that one. But whether you want to serve as a chair or simply to be a committee member to have input along any of the lines that she mentioned, and particularly for tonight's discussion, education, we'd love to have you. And with that, if Joy would like to say something real quick, if you could.
I just put my nice to meet you all and hello to lots of people I know on the call. I apologize, I can't be on camera. There are a lot of internet issues in our household filled with people on many educational Zooms. Yeah, thank you. It's exciting to see this plan. And I dropped my Gmail in the chat. If anyone's interested in serving on the education committee, just reach out to me. Thanks so much.
Yeah. And one last thing I will mention. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate you taking on the chair of the education committee. But one last thing, I will say, this is not meant to supplant any other organizations or committees that are in the Hyde Park area, but really to focus us and to work with those other groups. I know, Benny, you serve on the chamber, so there's a connection there. We've got a number of great organizations that have been around for a long time, and we want to work with them on projects and not duplicate what they're doing, but just really provide a forum where we can talk about all things kind of Hyde Park and in those quarterly meetings that you guys will be having. But thank you guys. I appreciate that, and really open to questions now. I know we were going back to the presentation just to show where that green space is. I know there's a couple of slides to kind of indicate where we are putting more in green space in, as Vice Principal Morrison was saying. Okay.
Yes, right. Again, the final definition of what it ends up being is not written in stone, and we'll engage with the school to determine how that ends up.
Alderman King, if I may take this opportunity to speak on the behalf of the Kenwood Local School Council. So I have the pleasure of serving as chair, but with a team of dedicated folks who are parents, community members, teachers, illustrious principal, non-teacher staff. And we really are thankful to both your leadership as well as Principal Calloway for highlighting this project and greenlighting it and helping us take something that was a vision for years into something that's going to be actual in a few more years, right? So, just want to applaud you and really thank you for your dedication to education, but also to just driving safety, because this is also a safety concern for many parents of students, who travel between the two buildings. So again, thank you, Principal Calloway. Thank you, Alderman King, for driving this, finding the resources, and finding the right folks to get this in play. And with that, I want to say thank you to Kiana as well, too, who drafted a beautiful piece about this collaboration and this headway coming into existence. So again, on behalf of local school council, I want to speak for everyone, but as a Kenwood alum, I'm definitely happy. As a Kenwood parent, I'm happy. So thank you.
No, thank you. We again appreciate your leadership. We know, that what you guys are doing in education is really about our community and about our future. And like I said, I really do truly believe it's also a vehicle to growing economic development in a community. I mean, there's nothing like a great school in your community. And Kenwood is doing great things. They deserve, a great institution to be able to call home. And we're just getting started. We've got the field, we've got, building, we want to get the science lab, the STEM program up and going. We just really, I really just want, I am honored to have a lot of great educational institutions in the Fourth Ward. But I see the inequity. I can see that, firsthand. I've got Jones on the north, which has, one of the best facilities ever. But, the same type of education is going on. And in fact, one might say, that more might be going on in Kenwood because of where we're taking the kids, all neighborhood kids. Yes, we've got the 7th and 8th grade program, but I just can't say enough about what's going on there. I've got, like I said, great institutions like Diet, like Dunbar, like King, as well as other elementary schools, but really, feel that that schools are the hubs of communities and can spur economic development if they are doing well. And so I'm honored to help in that regard. So any other questions? You can use the raise your hand function. That's why we elevated everybody. I hate when there are webinars and you're just listening and you're, putting your questions in the chat. So if there are questions that you have, please feel free to raise your hand, use the raise your hand function. You can certainly use the chat if you'd like to, but if there are live questions you have to me or the principal or CPS or the LSC, please feel free. And I'm in Hyde Park, so I know this is not a shy group. Okay, Ms. Rojas.
Rojas, yes. Excuse me, I just want to take a moment to just express my appreciation as a special education teacher here at Kenwood. We do a lot of rotating, and for 2 years, I was assigned to co-teach with teachers who were in the Cantor building, but my office is housed in the Kenwood building. And so, for several classes a day, I was making that trek from Kenwood to Cantor, from Cantor to Kenwood. And so for me, yes, safety is a major, a big concern, but I also looked at it as a health concern because as a co-teacher, I had time to get my coat, get my umbrella, get what I needed to deal with the weather elements when I was transitioning from one building to the other. But as students, when the bell rings, they have 4 minutes to transition from one building to the next. So when the bell rings, they grab their books and they leave. They don't have jackets. They don't have coats. Some of them don't have boots. They don't have umbrellas. So they were exposed to the elements going back and forth. So I just really am thrilled to see this coming into fruition now. I just love Ms. Callaway, first of all, for bringing the vision. And then Alderman King, you took the ball and made it a home run. So my appreciation to everyone that's concerned with this project, as someone who has experienced what it's like to transition from one building to the other. That pedway is going to be like gateway to heaven now. So it's really going to be very much appreciated and very much needed. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, we're waiting for another question. Oh, I see Mr. Gettinger and then Ms. Barrett.
Ms. Callaway, just wondered if you could discuss kind of the general state of the building at 50 years. It's a long time. Considering everything else, the state of the building, is everything else okay as far as upkeep is concerned? Has there been ongoing repairs with other stuff in the building? Just kind of wondered, and it's a broad question, but has the rest of the building been taken care of by and large? Wonder if you could give any other, sense of the general update.
Yeah, sure. So CPS has been doing a great job really noticing what's going on at Kenwood. I will say that, like I said, in the time that I've been here, I've seen many engineers come and go, and really some of the responsibility of maintaining the building is between the lead engineer and the principal. I think over the last 7-8 years, I've really seen a lot of attention being put into different parts of the building. And so it's still a lot of work left to be done. But I think, for example, CPS just upgraded and enhanced our science labs, which are amazing. And really, if you haven't seen them, feel free to come into the building to see them. They are really state-of-the-art labs, and the design that we're using for the STEM lab really came from the science lab project. And so they've also overhauled our HVAC system, which, we've had challenges with heating and climate throughout the building in the high school. So that's something that's been a major project and overhaul that CPS has done as well. We're also currently working on replacing the floor tiles on the second and third floor, and also in some classrooms. So they'll be working on that this summer with the help of our wonderful Senator Peters, who helped us, acquire funding to be able to do that. So we're excited about that work. As I mentioned earlier, the STEM labs, and so a lot of other small projects that we're working on are things that the school and CPS has really been conscious of moving forward, like lighting in the auditorium and replacing lockers in the Cantor building and floor tile in the Cantor building. These are things that I know that we need to get done. Hopefully I'll get that done in my tenure as principal. But I think the school itself as it relates to the bones and the infrastructure of the building, like we're definitely moving in the right direction. I have such a wonderful working relationship with Eben and Vinny and the team. You see Eben has on his Kenwood t-shirt. He's very pro.
I wanted to make sure you saw that today. I wasn't even gonna say anything. I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, me and Eben been working together since the athletic field, which is another wonderful addition to the school. Something that you see off of Lake Park. It just really is enriching and refreshing for the community, I think. So we've got a lot done, and I think that our engineer, Mr. Reed, has been very successful at coming behind some engineers who, in my opinion, weren't as vested in Kenwood as he is. I thought it was a good match. Alumni typically love their high school. He would be great, being that this is the school that he attended for high school. So he's been doing an amazing job working with our facility manager, Gwen Fletcher. She's our quality manager, I should say. And also Vinny Dyes, who supports me and supports the school 190%. So we're just blessed to really have a wonderful working team of individuals who really care about neighborhood high schools and care about, in particular, those students that are attending these neighborhood high schools. So Kenwood is changing the reputation of what some might give neighborhood high schools, because oftentimes, you know, really people think we're a selective enrollment school. It's really interesting. I don't know if it's the word academy or just all the wonderful accolades that this school has acquired and earned that makes people think that we're selective, but we're not selective. We're just a regular old neighborhood high school. We're super duper comprehensive. We're really a high school from the era when I was in high school that served all students and had all type of programming. So we think we're in a good position, Aaron. We're moving in the right direction as a school community, and I think it's definitely in the best interest of students in Hyde Park, as well as Black and Brown students who in neighborhood and public high school haven't always been put in the best position as it relates to the school building and school resources itself. I think Kenwood is unique in the fact that we've been able to continue to rise. So we're excited about what's happening. And I think CPS has been very supportive over the last few years with really helping us get to where we need to go.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Ms. Barrett.
Just very quickly, I just wanted to underscore what Principal Calloway and other members of the LSC has said. This is a huge milestone on many fronts. You've heard about the safety concern, but it's also an issue of equity. And when you think about the number of schools in the district that have an academic center in its portfolio, Kenwood was the last one to have a pedway to connect. And so bringing this to fruition, again, levels the playing field for the school community, which is increasingly so important. And an added bonus to the whole equity and inclusion piece is the decision that was made to hire an African-American architect to work on this project. So this symbolizes a great deal for our community. It speaks to the conscious leadership that we have in our aldermen and our principal and at the district. And so again, I think we hear a lot about what isn't happening and so much negativity. This is a moment for us to really celebrate collective work and responsibility. So again, great job, Broncos, and continue to soar.
Great. I was gonna say Kuji Chagalia, but that's self-determination. No, get me on collective works. Nia's purpose. Don't have my mother get me on these. Which one was that?
Well, we need the self-determination too, Alderman. So that wasn't all the way off.
We need all seven principles and then some.
Yes, we do.
Good, good. No, it's definitely been a collaboration, which the best projects really come out of, right? Collaboration, strong discussion, and then you get the best projects. You know, I see Miss Moreno Pachel shouting out that the Hyde Park Kenwood Community Conference has an active schools committee. I just want to share that information publicly. As I said, you know, there's a lot of good organization that has gone on for years. This is not meant to supplant that. I'm sure, as I know how Joy works, she will be collaborating with the Hyde Park Kenwood Community Conference so that we can glean whatever they've learned and collaborate and move our community even further up the educational ladder. So I appreciate that as well. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Next projects besides Principal Calloway, because she's already hit me with like 10, which is great. You guys have a wonderful principal. I mean, you know, there's always progress to be made, always. And so, when you sit stagnant, that's when you start to lose ground. And believe me, with Principal Calloway at the helm, you guys will not suffer from standing stagnant. So I appreciate that, and have gotten to know the LSC as well pretty closely, and appreciate their leadership as well. So, but I know there perhaps may be other questions or. But if not, I'm happy with that as well. Oh, cool. Thank you, Ms. Barrett. UGMA, Collective Works and Responsibility. Don't tell my mom. Miss Lacy.
Hi, I am sorry that I joined late, but I really wanted to hear what was going on. I am a former teacher at Kenwood. I was there from 1968 when we were still in Cantor through 1999 when I left to go to Jones. But I am so proud of this school. The scores have remained high. Everything, we thought we were real special back in 68 and 69 when we built the building. But I'm just so proud that everything I ever read about the school is really positive, and that you have managed to sustain something for all of those years. That's very impressive. It really, really is. And I'm proud whenever I see Kenwood students, and just congratulations on maintaining standards and the facility. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Lacy. Now, thank you. That means a lot to us. What we do have to do is get you over to Kenwood, because you can tell the story. See, I'm only reading it. I would love to talk to you and have you have an opportunity to talk with our students, because the more they can know about the history of the building, the more exciting and the more pride they can take in being in the building. So I definitely want to get your information, at the very least your email address, so that we can reach out to you, invite you into the building, because we look at pictures all the time. I also follow the Kenwood First Decade on Facebook, and sometimes they post like pictures of events that happened in 1970 and 1969. Like, I would love to hear all about the transition from the Lewisworth building, I think it was back then, or was it the Kenwood? It was the Kenwood.
It was Lewisworth.
It was Lewisworth. Okay. So I love history. So if we can get you over here just to speak with us, and then when the students actually return in full force to speak with the students, I think that would be really exciting. Or if you have any of your colleagues that that you'll keep in touch with, if you guys come back and you taught what subject? I'm sorry, you guys, I say I get excited.
No, this is perfect. I would have asked if you had listened to it.
Ms. Lacy, what did you teach?
I taught English, and for a while I was the English department chair.
Chair, really? Nice. Okay, so you were back there with was Miss Cornelius there then? And
yes.
Miss, oh, I can see her faces. Prince. Miss Prince?
Yes, she was too.
And you were there with Mr. Towns?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we would love to have, because I started here in 2001. So I know a few people, but they were really on their way out, many of them, when I was coming in. So
yeah. Yes. Well, I'd be happy to do that. I will I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Thank you, Miss Lacy. It's an honor to have that legacy here, and count me in, Principal Calloway. When she comes by, I want to be a part of that conversation so I can get some firsthand information as well.
Absolutely.
I hear a lot from my husband, because he said he didn't go there, but people thought he did. He was up there so much. But yeah, I see Miss Parham, and I'm wondering if that's the same Miss Parham I know, because I can only see the top of her head. But oh yes, talk about legacy and history, Miss Parham.
I wanted to say this is very exciting, and as the daughter of a member of the committee that went to every school board member to convince them to build Kenwood.
Wow.
I have lots of other connects too, like kids that went there, and I have grandkids that said they are in the class of 2028. So yes, they went to every member of the Board of Education to convince them that Kenwood needed to be built.
Would you mind putting your information in the chat too? Because there, I have questions because I read an article and then I was told about, like, I just want to hear about, like, because I knew there was something between us, and I'm hearing during the civil rights era, there was a whole lot of, there was some pushback about building Kenwood, and I know it was some sort of situation with Hyde Park, but I'm only hearing bits and pieces. So if you guys were actually there to live in and you were at every board meeting, you're just walking history. And so we want to definitely get you guys in the building. If you don't mind, I would love for you to put your information in the chat as well.
I would love to. And I also graduated from Hyde Park with Patricia Calloway.
Oh, did you? Oh, it gets even better.
Right.
You're my cousin.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I will do that.
Okay.
You may have stories then.
I tell you.
I got some stories.
This is great.
I want to be in on that meeting too.
Okay.
And Carol and I were in Girl Scouts together.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow. I'm the Girl Scout. Girl Scout. So, wow, this is great. So, like I said, we just really want to enhance the school physically. We know Principal Calloway and Miss Burris on the LSC are leading our school and our future in the right direction. And we just want to make sure that they have the resources to do that. And so happy to be here this evening to talk about those resources. Hopefully we'll be back soon to talk about more. But as I said, and don't mind saying again, educational institutions, neighborhood schools are really the hubs of our communities, and we have to make sure that they thrive and have all the resources that they need so that our communities can thrive. And so, to that end, that's been my North Star, as Ms. Barrett can attest to, from day one, and will continue to be. So appreciate everybody coming out this evening. If there are more questions, please raise your hand, let us know. If not, we will end shortly, and just want to end by thanking everybody for coming out, for thanking the CPS team. Evan, we got to know each other well throughout the process. Mr. Chambers, we, have had way too many meetings, but that's okay. We will stay in touch. So want to thank the CPS team again. Thank the LSC under the leadership of Ms. Burris, the Kenwood team under the leadership of Principal Calloway. Be remiss if I didn't thank my team under the leadership of Mr. Butler, my chief of staff, and again to the Hyde Park Advisory Council. Please, under leadership of Mr. Curry, Ms. Clendenning for education, please, if you're interested in the community and have some time to give, this isn't a huge commitment. We really just want to use that vehicle to, again, empower the community, to have a connection kind of with me, the alderman, and to really tell me what our needs are in the Hyde Park area. So thank you again for coming this evening. We will continue our talk about TIFs and other projects that are coming on May 20th at 6 p.m. So look out for that information in our newsletter. We're going to talk about with Alderman Hairston the 53rd Street TIF in its entirety, and some of the projects that we'd like to see completed with the community's input, of course. And so if you want to learn more about that, please join us then. All right. Well, thank you and good evening.
Great. Thank you, Alderman. Good evening,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, Alderman. Good
Everyone.
evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Alderman.